I didn't recognise you.
I know.
With that hair.
I know.
I like it.
You like it?
You know that song? Party rockers in the house tonight. You look like that guy. You know? How are you, mate?
At Fight Hype, we have great hair.
Yeah, it's good hair, good hair.
So we got the Teofimo Lopez fight finally after all the, it's here.
Don't jinx it.
No.
Don't jinx it. I just said to him, 3 weeks. I said, how long have you been waiting for this fight? He's like, 6-7 months, and obviously he's not, we don't represent him, but he's got great energy. We just finished a shoot here with his own. He's a character, he has great energy. I'm surprised that there hasn't been more focus put on him, to be honest with you, after he beat Lomachenko, because I think you've got a guy there, everyone said that Lomachenko was a pound for pound number 1 or number 2, and he beat him. And I feel like he probably hasn't had the plaudits that he deserves. Partly down to momentum, do you know what I mean? Because I think, obviously, if he would have been in there, beat Kambosos 4 or 5 months ago, it might have been different, but he's got a chance to shine. And Devin Haney fights Jojo Diaz, and then they should fight each other, because I think everyone talks about the fights in the lightweight division, but there's genuinely 2 guys there that are ready to sign now for that fight, but they've both got big fights coming up themselves.
Eddie, how close were you monitoring the whole situation with Triller, and when did it get in your head, we were real shot to get this fight?
We were ready a few months back, and it was just waiting. Like, we don't want to, it'd been easy to go in and sort of cause a bit of trouble, but I just wanted to let it take its natural process. I remember the purse bid. I mean, it was unbelievable. We sat there with Top Rank. We made our bid. It was like 600,000, 700,000 more than Top Rank or whatever. And then they announced the Triller number, and I was just like, and I always had my doubts because it was the wrong number. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, when it fell through, we were second in place, and it was the perfect time for DAZN to bring a fight like that to the platform. And now, obviously, to add Devin against Jojo the week after as well gives us a brilliant run in to close the year.
At which date change did you figure, what, we have a real shot?
Probably the last one. I mean, we were ready previously, but obviously they gave them one last opportunity to do it, and then it didn't work out again. And then, like I said, it was just a waiting game from there, really. And obviously, with Ryan Garcia pulling out the fight, freed up November 27, which, from a live crowd perspective, is always a little bit tricky on Thanksgiving. But I believe, from an audience perspective and a subscriptions perspective, I think it's a really good day, to be honest. And I think it's going to do great numbers.
Eddie, realistically, what's the path to actually making Haney and Lopez happen? Is it you got to overpay both guys on DAZN, or is it you got to represent Devin and take him to ESPN?
Yeah, either. I've already said to Bob, I think my conversation with Bob, I don't know whether it's Teo or whether it's just in general these days where, he doesn't think that fight is maybe as big as I think that fight is, because I think it's time to embrace that younger generation of fighters. And we keep talking about how great the division is, but it's only great if we see fights like that. So I said to Bob already, a couple of weeks ago, I said, look, we'll do that fight on ESPN pay-per-view, no problem. We can do that fight on DAZN. If you don't want to do it, we can do it on both. Let's just try and make it happen. It's easy just to go, oh, no, but unless you actually want to do it and you want to make it happen, there's always a way. But Teo does have to beat George Kambosos, and Devin does have to beat Jojo Diaz, and I believe if we do that, then there's a great chance that fight happens, because, like I said, it seems that with Gervonta Davis, they'll only fight PBC fighters. And with Ryan Garcia, who knows? There you go. Who knows with Ryan Garcia? So let's not muck around, but they've got to get through. What's that, Teo?
Tank Davis is a pussy.
Let's tell us how you really feel.
That's how I feel. He's a fake thug.
But how do you see that fight playing out, Eddie?
Which one?
If Teo's the fight, maybe.
It's a great fight. It's I really rate it. Although I represent Devin, who I rate incredibly as well. I think Teo's the guy that's proved above every other lightweight that he's the real deal, because he beat Vasily Lomachenko. Everybody was having wet dreams about Vasily Lomachenko, and he went in and beat him. In fact, when Teofimo beat Richard Commey, I thought it was a terrible move to fight Lomachenko. I thought that was a star performance against Commey. Go out and defend your title. don't fight this guy yet. You can't beat this guy. You're not ready for this guy. And he went and beat him. So all the other lightweights, they don't have the win on their resume like he has. So that's why I think Haney Diaz is a brilliant fight, because although he beat Linares last time, this is a win to say, no, I'm actually right up there as well. But he stands at the top because of that win.
Does he give you the confidence in the young fighters? You just mentioned the need to promote the younger fighters. Does Teo's performance against Lomachenko give you that confidence in the younger fighters?
Yeah, I just think in general, it's about energy. It's about a younger generation. It's about fans dialing in and wanting to be a part of a journey or understanding just energy. And that's what these guys have got. Whether it's Tank, whether it's Ryan, whether it's Devin, whether it's Teo, they've got great energy. You've got an older generation of fighters now. You look at guys, it seems like everybody's aged 10 years in the pandemic, right? I feel that way when I think I'm 42 now. Where did that go? And then you got like even AJ, 32, like all these guys. And the same with Spence, the same with Crawford. How old's Crawford? 34? 30, we need to start looking at these guys, because these are that generation coming through. But they've got so much more about them. And I feel like they can attract a younger audience to the sport, because they've got that, they've got that energy, like I said. And I think that if they can fight each other, even better. And even Kambosos, that's a good fight. He's not a mug. He's a big favourite, Lopez, but Kambosos is going to bring a good energy himself.
How true is the zone pay-per-view model? Seeing the fact that that's something that you guys do, trying to make these fights. Is the zone pay-per-view going to be
I think that it's not a model that they're looking to switch to. It's more about having the functionality to do it for one-off events. A good example is if Teo fought Devin on ESPN pay-per-view. The only way that DAZN could share that is if they had a pay-per-view functionality as well. The beauty of DAZN is a much more cost-effective and value-for-money subscription service than a traditional pay-per-view model. Right now in boxing, you guys are seeing one pay-per-view a month at least, right? You just had Fury Wilder, you've had Jake Paul, you've got Gervonta coming up, you've got Crawford Spence coming up, you've got Canelo against Plant. It's unbelievable. It's $80, $70 per night. And it's almost 1 year of the DAZN subscription, and I think that all it allows us to do is have the functionality to make certain fights that we couldn't make through the subscription model. So when you look at, all those Canelo fights have all been on the subscription model. So it doesn't mean that we're just looking to do random pay-per-view nights, but there'll be certain opportunities. And in the UK as well, that works for Anthony Joshua. It might work for Dillian White against Tyson Fury, but they're one-off fights that just, you have to have the ability, in my opinion, to run that model in certain scenarios. It doesn't mean that's the future. What DAZN are doing is taking fights really off pay-per-view that have been pay-per-view in the past, and that's the same as in the UK as well.
You said Tyson Fury and Dillian White.
Yeah.
Is that 100% official?
No, we're waiting. I mean, the convention's coming up with the WBC, and I believe they're going to order that fight at the convention. He's been a mandatory for a long, long time. He deserves his shot, and I'm looking forward to seeing Dillian White get a shot at the World Heavyweight title.
You mentioned the DAZN pay-per-views, and you mentioned the outrageous prices that are here in America. What do you see the price point for these DAZN?
Depends. I mean, if you're sharing, this has always been the problem. You can't have a dual broadcast with ESPN and DAZN, an ESPN pay-per-view and a DAZN subscription, because the price point's different. So if you're sharing a broadcast, you would have to agree on the same price point. But it's not like, they're sitting there going, right, we need 12 pay-per-views a year, and it's not even saying we need pay-per-views a year, it's just saying we need to have the technology to do it to allow us to bring certain fights to the platform, particularly those shared nights as well.
Everyone's in America's mentioning comparing the lightweights to the Hagler, Hearns, and back close to home, when you in the mid-90s, you had all the super middleweights with Collins. Then you compare that to that a little bit?
Yeah, but it's only if they fight each other.
And they fought each other.
Yeah, they did. Collins and Ben and Eubank. But you got Joe Calzaghe, never really fought a lot of those guys till the end of his career. Then Carl Froch came in and sort of missed Joe Calzaghe, and I just feel like there's no excuse why these guys can't fight each other now. The whole Tank thing with just looking at PBC fighters, I think it's bad for the sport. I really do. He'll fight anyone, but when is he going to fight Teo and Devin and Brian if no one's prepared to work with each other. So that's why, really, you know, when we looked at Devin, we didn't want to do a longer term deal because we didn't want to stop him from getting the opportunities. So basically, didn't want to give anybody the excuse as to why not to fight anyone. Obviously, this run's been perfect with Teo and Kambosos and then Haney against Diaz. So, and it's on DAZN.
And Tank the night after Devin. So
yeah, exactly.
They're all lined up.
Yeah, and that's another $79 or $70 or whatever it is for Gervonta Davis against Isaac Cruz.
Do you think that's an easy fight for Gervonta? Or
Cruz is a good, strong fighter. But is it a pay-per-view fight? That's what you've got to ask yourself. You know, I mean, but Tank is a star. He's a big ticket seller, and he's a very, very good fighter. But imagine Tank against Devin, or imagine Tank against Teofimo.
Huge fight.
Oh, these are fights that can make boxing great again. You know.
What's the
What do you see
conversation
Canelo
been with
doing? And do you think Saunders will Plant will ultimately prove a tougher challenge than Saunders on Saturday night?
I think that Plant's a very good fighter, but the problem is we just don't know, do we? Like when you look at their resumes, Caleb Plant has never been beaten an elite fighter. And that's no disrespect to... He's beaten some world-class guys, but he's never beaten an elite fighter. Just look at the resume over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. It's not even comparable. So it might be a demolition and a mismatch. But if Caleb Plant has the ability to be an elite level fighter, but you don't know because he's never boxed anyone of that level. But I do rate him. I think he's technically very good. I think he has a good mind. But there's he's such a different level to where he's been before, and he may freeze, he may be out of his depth, or he may have the ability to compete.
You know, the consensus seems to be he can get off to a good start, but ultimately get stopped late in the fight.
The tough thing about Canelo is his confidence and his ability to just bide his time. You know, against Billy Joe Saunders, he was winning the fight, but it was quite, you know, it was getting quite interesting. And then, like that, the fight turns. And against Kovalev, the same thing. I think he was behind on the cards against Kovalev. Just take my time, I know it'll come. I've never met a fighter like him who is so confident. Like, you know, I was with him last night just playing poker in his room, you know, and he was like, you could tell him it was a tough fight, and he'd almost just smirk. It's like it's a nice arrogance because he's humble, yet he has that much belief in himself. He can't, in his mind, he cannot be beaten. And that's a very when you're as good as he is and you have that mindset, it's a very dangerous combination.
I know you like the Bivol fight, Eddie.
Yeah.
But is Benavidez the toughest fight out there for Canelo?
Good fight. I mean, look, there's the Bivol fight, there's the Charlo fight, there's Gennady Golovkin 3, you know, for the undisputed, what would be. There's loads of different options, and I think he's just enjoying the process of after every fight, going, okay, what should I do now? Because he's, you know, you can change your mind. If you do a long-term deal, sometimes you get to a point where you think, actually, I don't like the direction this is going in. All he's focused on is Caleb Plant, and then next week he'll sit down and say, okay, what are my options? And they'll all be presented to him by us, by PBC or whoever, and he'll just look at them and go, yeah, that one next. And then on he goes. So it's a really unique situation.
Do you think he appreciates that your relationship didn't sour just because he didn't want his very next fight?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know how much the Undisputed meant to him, and I knew we'd been once. You know, we'd done the Callum Smith fight and the Billy Joe Saunders fight. Really, our options for this fight were Dimitri Bivol, and I knew what the Undisputed meant to him. And I'm not like, at the end of the day, I'm here as a friend, you know, or you know, he asked me to come out, not promoting the fight. But I think he's I think he's an amazing guy, and I really want to see him win because I've worked with him for a year, become, you know, reasonably close to him, very fond of him, and I just think he's a great competitor, a great fighter. So whether we work together when me promoting a show in the future. through your fingers, you know, because it's a very explosive fight.